You know Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, Comet and Cupid and Donner and Blitzen, but do you recall?
What's up, guys? This is your friendly neighborhood Extreme Spidey Guy here, and today I'm going to be doing a movie review on It's a Wonderful Life, directed by Frank Capra, which was based on the short story and booklet The Greatest Gift, self-published by Philip Dan Doran Stern in 1943, which itself is loosely based on the 1843 Charles Dickens novel A Christmas Carol. The film stars James Stewart as George Bailey, a man who has given up his personal dreams in order to help others in his community, and whose thoughts of suicide on Christmas Eve bring out the intervention of his guardian angel, Clarence Oddboy, played by Henry Travers. Clarence shows George all the lives he touched and what the world would be like if he did not exist. Theatrically, the film's break-even point was $6.3 million, about twice the production cost, a figure it did not come close to achieving it on its initial release. Because of the film's disappointing sales, Capra was seen by some studios as having to lost his ability to produce popular, financially successful films. Although It's a Wonderful Life initially received mixed reviews and was unsuccessful at the box office, it became a Christmas classic after its copyright lapse in 1974 and it fell into public domain, which allowed it to be broadcast without licensing or royalty freeze. Today, It's a Wonderful Life is considered to be one of the greatest films of all time and among the best Christmas films. It was nominated for 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and has been recognized by the American Film Institute as one of the 100 best American films ever made. It was number 11 on the American Film Institute's 1998 Greatest Movie list, and number 20 on its 2007 Greatest Movie list, and number 1 on its list of the most inspirational American films of all time. Capra revealed that it was his favorite among the films he directed that it screened for his family every Christmas season. It was one of Stewart's favorite films. In 1990, It's a Wonderful Life was selected for preservation in the U.S. National Film Registry by the Library of Congress for being deemed as culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. So, what's the story for this movie? Well, George Bailey has so many problems, he is thinking about ending it all, and it's Christmas. As the angels discuss George, we see his life in flashback. As George is about to jump from a bridge, he ends up rescuing his guardian angel, Clarence, who then shows George that his town would have looked like if it hadn't been for all his good deeds over the years. So, what are my thoughts on this movie? This movie would have to be the best Christmas movie I have ever seen and one of the best movies I have ever seen in my life. The direction by Frank Capra is definitely phenomenal, and the screenplay is definitely phenomenal as well. The acting from James Stewart, Donna Reed, Lionel Barrymore, Thomas Mitchell, Henry Travers, Bella Bondi, Ward Bond, and Frank Phelan and Gloria Graham are definitely phenomenal. The cinematography is phenomenal. The editing's phenomenal, and the music by Dmitry Tomikin is definitely phenomenal as well. George Bailey is definitely a likable character for what he is, and he definitely has great chemistry with Clarence as well. the ending, there's a lot of heartwarming and emotional moments, and um and um and um and 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 I also do like the song It's a Wonderful Life as well. So the film starts off on Christmas Eve 1945 in Bedford Falls, New York. New York. George Bailey contemplates suicide. The prayers of his family and friends reach heaven, where a guardian angel, second class Clarence Oddboy, is assigned to save George in order to earn his wings. Clarence is shown flashbacks of George's life. He watches 12-year-old George rescue his younger brother Harry from drowning, leaving George deaf in his ear. George later prevents the Parmacius, Mr. Gower, from accidentally poisoning a customer's prescription. In 1928, George plans a world tour before college. He is reintroduced to Harry Hatch, who has been enamored with him since childhood. When his father dies suddenly, George postpones his travel to settle business with the Bailey brothers building and loan. A voracious board member, Henry Potter, who controls the controls most of the town, seeks to dissolve it, but the board votes to keep the building and loan open if George runs it. George acquires and works alongside his uncle Billy, giving his tuition savings to Harry with understanding that Harry will run the business when he graduates. Harry returns from college and is married with a job from his father-in-law. George re, resigns himself to running the building and loan. George and Mary rekindle their relationship and wed. They witness a run on the bank and use their honeymoon savings to keep the building and loan solvent. Under George, the company establishes Bailey Park, a housing department surpassing the Potter's overpriced slums. The Potter incites George with a $2,000 year job, but realizing Potter's true intention is to close the building and loan, George rebuffs him. On Christmas Eve, 1945, the town prepares a hero's welcome for Harry, who was a new U.S. Navy fighter pilot, was awarded the Medal of Honor for preventing a kamikaze attack on the troop transport. Billy goes to Parsons Bank for an $8,000 deposit of the building and loans money. He taunts Potter and with a newspaper headline about Potter, then accidentally wraps the cash in Potter's newspaper. Potter finds and keeps the money, while Billy cannot recall how he misplaced it. With the bank examiner reviewing the company's records, George realizes scandal and criminal charges will follow. Fruitlessly retracting Billy's steps, George berates him, and takes out his frustration on Mary and their children. George appeals to Potter for a loan, offering his life insurance policy and collateral. George Potter scoffs that George is worth more than than alive, refuses to help, and phones the police. George flees to Potter's office, gets drunk at a bar, and prays for help. Contempting suicide, he goes to a nearby bridge. However, before George can jump, Clarence dives into the freezing river and George rescues him. When George wishes he had never been born, Clarence shows George a timeline in which he never existed. Bedford Falls is now Pottersville, an unsavory town occupied by sleazy entertainment venues, crime, and callous people. Mr. Gower was imprisoned for manslaughter because George was not there to stop him from poisoning the customer. George's mother does not know him, but sorry, that's just my mom coughing. Just ignore that. Uncle Billy was institutionalized after the building and loan failed. Bailey Park is a cemetery where George discovers Harry's grave. Without George, Harry drowned a child. Without Harry to save them, the troops aboard the transport ship were killed. George finds Mary, but when he grabs her and claims to be her husband, she screams and runs. George flees back to the bridge and begs Clarence for his life back. The original reality is restored, and a grateful George rushes home to await his arrest. Meanwhile, Mary and Billy have railed the townspeople who come into the Bailey home and donate more than enough to cover the missing money. Harry arrives and toasts George as the richest man in town among donations. George finds a copy of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, a gift from Clarence inscribed, "Remember, no man is a failure who has friends. Thanks for the wings." When a bell on the Christmas tree rings, George's youngest brother Zuzu explains that every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. George looks upward and smiling and saying, "Attaboy, Clarence." Now, are there any bad qualities I have with this movie? Absolutely not, and here's how I'm going to rate it. I am going to give It's a Wonderful Life a full solid 10 out of 10. So tell me your thoughts on It's a Wonderful Life. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you think it's okay? Do you think it's overrated? Just let me know in the comments below. And until next time, I'll see you all later.